Hey everyone, I'm really excited to be here with everybody today. Some of the things, I know we're just coming back after lunch and there's probably going to be a little bit of a food coming here, so just bear with me as we go through this because I've got some really exciting stuff to share with you. As the amazing voice said, minus the fireworks, my name is Mark Callahan, and I'm actually with the product marketing team out of Boulder, Colorado, the Gnip team. And while I'm not a developer or a coder like anybody else in the room here, what I am actually is a huge data nerd. I mean, big time. Like I seriously, when I start talking about this, I'm not kidding, I'll start shaking my butt a little bit, and that's my happy dance. And so I apologize ahead of time if you see that. It's not a nervous tick. It's actually something I legitimately do whenever I get to talk about data, just because there's so many amazing things that we can do with it. Now, to set the stage a little bit, what I would like to have everyone do is maybe think back just a touch to one of those decisions that you made, whether it was in your personal life or maybe it was in your business life, where you had to make a decision based on incomplete information. So think about those times where you actually stayed up at night, you were agonizing, maybe talking to your spouse, talking to friends, and you were really agonizing over this decision because you didn't have all of the material that you needed, all the information and inputs that you needed to make an educated decision. You probably lost some sleep over this. Well, the amazing thing that I'm going to give back to you today is I'm going to give you some of that sleep back, whether it was sleep or, in my case, hair that you lost. I can't promise I'm going to give the hair back, but I can definitely give you back some sleep as you think and are able to rest easier knowing that what we're going to be able to talk about today is what would you do differently about that decision if you had access to what everyone in the world was thinking about that topic or that theme at any given time, anywhere on the planet? Think about that. Think about how much easier you would have slept if you had known all the different variables that kept you up and gave you that heartburn. Just think about how much better of a decision you would have made, again, whether it was personal or business related. And that's the amazing opportunity that we have with Twitter data, is that we have what's, in essence, the world's largest focus group, where everyone is out there telling us exactly what they think about those things that matter to us most. So you may have seen a slide like this in the past, and this one speaks to what's really unique about Twitter, but what I want to do is earmark this a little bit more for what's unique about Twitter data. And so if we look at this, there's a few things to keep in mind. One, Twitter data is real time. When you're getting these thoughts and opinions from people who are sharing with you, you're getting it exactly as it happens. And that's crucial when it's maybe a PR decision or crisis management. Those are the things you need to hear in real time to make sure that you know how to react as quickly as possible. Second, it's public. What makes Twitter different than other social platforms is that everything that's shared on the platform is meant to be out there for the world to see. It's meant to be out there to be listened to, and if you know how to listen to it, you're going to be able to make those better informed decisions. Third, enterprise. It's enterprise ready. Twitter data is out there, and it's actually completely reliable. The data that we provide at Gnip is there's redundant streams. There are all sorts of things that we do to make sure that the hundreds and hundreds of businesses that build upon our data have access to reliable and data that they know is going to be there exactly when they need it. And finally, complete data. Just think, if there was that one tweet that was about somebody going to an emergency room over a product or something like this, that's the tweet you can't afford to miss, and we ensure that every single tweet that you need, you get, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to make those solid business decisions. So this morning, we heard a little bit from Chris Moody as he was talking through some really aspirational business cases for Twitter data. The first was the city of Jakarta, and it's amazing to see how Twitter data is being used with those citizens, the government employees who inform the citizens as almost real-time weather gauges, what's going on with the flood conditions in certain parts of the city at any given time. And that data comes back to those citizens in real time so that it's not just a function of, I might be late to work or I might be late to lunch. Instead, it's, do I need to evacuate my family? Do I need to rescue things in my home? And that's the power of Twitter data, is it makes it possible to know what those conditions are. The second one kind of makes me laugh a little bit, and I'm probably going to blush on stage if I'm not already. But so I actually come from a family of physicians, and I'm a med school dropout myself. I saw the light, realized technology is a whole lot more fun. But nonetheless, this one was really interesting, because what we did here was we said, you know what? The traditional method for finding out about food poisoning, as Chris mentioned, is kind of an awkward and it's kind of a private one. You know, think about that time that you had an upset stomach and it stuck with you. And probably had somebody getting you, whether it was Gatorade or something like this, and helping you tough it out. But finally, after 2 or 3 days, you finally went to the emergency room. And at that point, the physician in the emergency room reports to the CDC in Atlanta. The CDC in Atlanta talks back to their local representatives, and then they go investigate that suspect kitchen or that suspect restaurant. That's a lot of time. there's a lot of other people who are going to have that discomfort that you did. What if you were able to listen to that signal in real time and find what was going on with those bad restaurants or that bad food as it happened? And the thing that we had to do there was we were thinking, okay, so if you want to learn about people who are talking about diarrhea, you need to find people who don't have a social filter. And we realized we had it in teenagers. So this project actually worked with teenagers in the Boston Children's Hospital. And it was really funny because, as you're thinking about the conversations that teenagers have about an upset stomach, they're not saying I have lower gastrointestinal distress. What they're actually saying is I've got mud butt or I've got green steam. And I can go on and on. Trust me, the Urban Dictionary has nothing on me at this point. I can give you potty humor all day long. But what happened was with the Boston Children's Hospital, Harvard Medical School, Twitter data, they were able to pinpoint where those suspect kitchens were, where those problem spots were, within hours. That's the immediacy of what we're talking about here with Twitter data. So, you saw this earlier as well with Chris Moody, but the thing that I want to challenge everyone in the room to think about a little bit is, on the top there, we have our traditional marketing use cases. So everyone thinks about social data, specifically Twitter even, as this thing that you use for outreach. You use it for community building. What I want everyone in the room to think about is, what about some of those other areas of our enterprise or our organization that we could improve? We could make those business decisions that much better if we had that complete knowledge, that world's largest focus group that I talked about earlier. If we're talking about supply chain management, you might want to know, is there unrest at a particular factory well in advance before a strike happens so you can move inventory or move the supply chain in advance of those problems? If we're looking at sales or operations, you want to have that real-time measure of what your customers are saying about a product so you might actually change a style or colorway or a particular model if it's not resonating with that audience. So, one of the things, as I mentioned, coming from a family of physicians, really smart people, but they know nothing about technology. I'm sorry, that's a statement only about my parents, maybe not all physicians, but nonetheless, as I try to tell my mom what it is that I do, sometimes she has a little bit of trouble grasping everything. So instead of me continuing to try to explain that particular scenario, what I'd like to do is share a commercial that IBM, one of our partners, actually created that ran during the Super Bowl last year.
Barbara just bought a bike. She wrote a tweet about it. You can't learn much from that. But take data from millions of tweets, combine that with your company's supply chain and sales data, apply IBM analytics and expertise, and all of a sudden you can learn which bikes to build, what to make them from, where to sell them. Because Barbara in the world just told you how to build a better bike. There's a new way to work, and it's made with IBM.
Pretty cool stuff, right? So all of a sudden you start thinking about this and you're like, wow, okay, this makes sense. If I know how to listen for what my customers, here comes the happy dance, sorry. If you're able to listen to your customers who are actually telling you exactly what kind of a bike they want, wouldn't you be able to build a better bike if that's the case? And it's all about being able to listen for that signal and listen for it on Twitter data. And so this is where we can start impacting things well beyond just that traditional marketing use case, and other places in the business can really, truly benefit from it. Just out of curiosity, I know it's a little bright up here, but I'm curious, any Diet Coke drinkers in the audience? Okay, so a hand to go up really fast back there. Are you like a real Diet Coke drinker? Like real? Okay, thank you. So if I gave you a Pepsi, you'd probably throw it back at me and do really bad. Exactly. Okay, so the thing that's interesting about Coca-Cola is that Coca-Cola is amazing in how proactive they are at listening for things that are being said, both positive and negative about the brand, especially anything that's untoward. And as you can see here, everyone loves the polar bears. The polar bears are awesome. They're great, and it's during the holiday season, you want them on everything. Well, they decided, let's see how it looks against the white can. This is actually a traditional Coke can. So instead of a red can here, what we have now is a white can. And for you Diet Coke drinkers, if you see this colorway and you saw it on the shelf and you're in a rush at the grocery store, there's probably a good chance that you would have stopped and picked this up instead of the regular Diet Coke that you're familiar with. The user experience, we're all developers, I would say a user, but actually the customer experience. Goes home, ready, sitting down after a long day, pop the top of that Diet Coke, take a sip, and literally spit it out. Oh my gosh, this tastes different. What's wrong? And you would think that most people would take that can, simply turn it sideways, and say, oh, it's got sugar. This is actually the original Coke can. But the conversation that took place on Twitter was much different. The conversation that took place on Twitter was, oh my God, they changed the formula of Diet Coke. My life is over. You would expect with something like Twitter, a social network like Twitter, that we would actually have self-correcting behaviors, that other users would come on and say, you know what, I had the same problem. No, 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 it's just a different can. But that's not what happened. It actually went the other direction. There was a groundswell of people talking about, I tried it too. I can't believe it. Diet Coke has changed. My life is over. And all of a sudden, you have this story that's getting a bit out of control. Well, the cool thing was Coca-Cola absolutely proactively was listening for this. They found that conversation, and they were able to pull the product from the store shelves within a day before there was any more brand damage. If you think about the traditional avenue, not a single can got returned to the retailers or to the grocers saying, hey, this can fooled me. That's not what happened. They found the story on Twitter. Pretty cool. Next one that I have to share with you is about trucks, actually. And I actually just bought a truck myself, and so I feel probably obliged to start sticking everything I possibly can on it that's chrome or aftermarket or anything else. But that's what we truck people do, apparently. And what was really interesting at Chevy was they said, you know what, let's go ahead and let's head off one of those accessories. Everyone loves chrome all over the vehicle. Let's go ahead and give new truck owners of that 2015 Chevy Silverado, let's give them an aluminum steering wheel right from the factory. This thing's going to look amazing. It's going to be super shiny. It's going to be perfect, exactly what you want. Well, problem is, when you're doing the product development lifecycle for a car, you probably have all seen those goofy camouflage vehicles. They cover everything they possibly can. Well, they were also covering the windshields at night. They didn't want people peering in and seeing this. And so what happened when they actually rolled out the real product, people in southern United States were saying, oh my gosh, I can't even touch the steering wheel. It's so hot during the day. You would think that this would have been caught early on, but it wasn't. And in fact, the story came out via Twitter. And because GM and Chevy were also being so proactive about this, they caught it. And they were able to make sure that, one, they removed that option from the accessory list, and they are also proactively able to reach out to all the people who did buy that particular option and make sure that the dealers corrected it. You notice none of these stories that I've just shared with you are about community building. These are all like business critical decisions that are being made better by Twitter data. This is the part that gets me so excited. Now, this next one's kind of fun too. This one's really unique in that I know there's a lot of folks here who are thinking about customer service. What's that experience normally like? And in fact, we're going to be having a session about customer service in a little bit with Jeff Lesser. I invite you all to go check that out. But if you think about customer service is traditionally one of those industries where every penny counts. You're looking for everything you can do to shorten handle times. You want to get to resolution as quickly as possible. That's why the BPO, the business processing outsourcing industry, came to life. They're looking for ways to cut costs. Well, what if I was able to tell you that we can take, thanks to Twitter, customer service and turn it into a method of creating this really free marketing tool, this really powerful public marketing mechanism. Let's not take difficult conversations that we hear from customers and just hide them away and put them to a 1-800 number. Let's talk these out on Twitter, on a public platform, because you know what? It's probably not the only person who's having a problem with your service. And what better way to show every other customer or prospective customer amazing customer service about your brand than by showing how you work with customers in person. So let's go ahead and take this as a particular example here. And so what I'm going to do is walk you through Spotify. Spotify, I love the service. Probably a lot of folks in here who use it. Jade is a customer of Spotify as well, and unfortunately, Jade's having a few problems. The good news is that we're actually able to read this live, and I don't have to actually say this out loud. I've used this presentation before with simultaneous interpretation, and it doesn't go over all that well in sometimes other languages. But nonetheless, bear with me. We've got a very upset customer here, right? And in a traditional world of customer service, these are the types of things that you're going, oh my gosh, we have to hide this. I don't want to get it away. Let's not talk about it. Ignore. It's not what Spotify does. Spotify is amazing in the way that they reach out to customers. They take what they call a positive active approach to every single engagement, especially those that happen on Twitter. So in this scenario, what happened was Spotify reached out and they said, you know what, hey Jade, let's talk. Obviously something's going wrong here, and this is very kind-hearted individual is trying to reach out, really wants to talk to Jade, and unfortunately Jade is like, you know what, this is, she's a bit of a troll, let's say, and it actually gets a touch worse. Once again, you can all probably see the train wreck that's coming. If this was a traditional customer service scenario, you'd want to put this away. Get it on the phone. Get this on email. You want this in private. You don't want this aired out for the world to see. Not in a positive, active world of Spotify. Spotify keeps at it. They say, you know what? let's keep talking, all right? We're not getting anywhere yet. You're calling me names, but you know what? Let's at least try, okay? So let's talk. So what do we have happen here? Well, at least we're starting to get to the root of the problems. We have somebody who's sharing with us one. Secondly, she also shares with it, she has a bit of a problem with the artists that are available. So obviously we have a fan here. But now that we have these two things put out into the public sphere, the public world that we're able to see, Spotify is able to at least start addressing these. So first one, they say, you know what, let's take a look at the hardware. You know what, it could be dependent on what you're using. We want to talk with you and figure out what it is. Secondly, let's tell you a little bit more about our artist catalog, because you know what, it's not necessarily our option that we don't have enough Joan for you. We might have some more, but this is how the artist catalogs work, and that's why it happens this way. Well, the amazing thing here, I don't have a soundtrack to my presentation, but if I did, this is kind of the Disney moment where a deer is going to come up next to my side and a bird might land on my shoulder, because all of a sudden, we've personified the brand. What we have now is we have Jade looking at this going, oh my gosh, you know what, I'm really sorry. One, probably realizing this is playing out in public and that this brand is doing everything they can to give her an amazing experience. But also, who knows what else is going on. She's just feeling better, okay? But you know what? They keep at it. Spotify says, hey, let's talk one more time. Just want to let you know, we have bad days too. We totally understand. And this is truly that hurrah moment is all of a sudden, that's right. We have a happy camper. Now imagine if you weren't a Spotify customer before you saw this scenario, would you not think twice about starting up with Spotify? I mean, talk about amazing customer service. I mean, just being called everything under the sun, they kept at it. They said, you know what, let's give you an amazing experience. That's what we want to do, and they did. And this is the way we're transforming customer service today on the platform and how Twitter is changing that model. Now, this next one, you probably have all heard, this is actually a tweet of mine, you all have probably heard about the amazing food that we have at Twitter. And in Boulder, we actually had cake for breakfast one day. I don't know how that happened, but it was amazing. It was like, honestly, it was one of the highlights of my life, I think. But nonetheless, we take this simple tweet and we look at it and we say, okay, when is a tweet so much more? I keep talking about all this business value that we're going to unlock for you. How much business value can you get out of just this basic message here? Well, what I want you to remember is that behind every single tweet, there is a ton of metadata. There is so much information about the author, about me, about where I live, what I've shared in my public profile. There are things that we add to this, that Gnip adds to this, and those things being, we add the level of influence that somebody has. We talk about who they are. We talk about location information. We have lots and lots of additional information that's behind this, so there's so much metadata that's there to be mined and that needs to be used. If you look at this, that's all the metadata that's actually hiding behind that single tweet that we had before. That's the part you got to think about. So if we give you information, let's say like device type and location, what might be a good business application for that? Well, let's take a look at this. So what I'm going to do now is walk you through how we might be able to take geo information and platform information, only two simple characteristics of that metadata, and combine them into a really powerful business case for, let's say, maybe a cell phone company. This is a pretty cool map. It's a little washed out. I don't know if folks can see it all that well, but what we're looking at here is New York City, and if you can't make out the color codes there, green are Android devices, red are iOS devices, purple BlackBerry, and then other. But what you see here is we've got a lot of iOS love in the city. These are all individual tweets. This is all metadata that came from individual tweets. What we're seeing over in New Jersey, though, is we see a lot more Android devices. Now, there are all sorts of inferences that can be made about this, and I'm not drawing any conclusions myself, but as a cell phone company, this information is absolutely invaluable. Think about the things that you would do knowing where people are tweeting and what they're tweeting from with a simple map like this. A second one that I have to share with you right fast is actually right here in the city. And you can see, once again, where that concentration of red, that's those iOS devices. Green, those are the Android devices. Maybe those are more prepaid phones. Who knows? Just interesting to see the types of business conclusions that you might be able to draw from this, especially if this is your business. So, Chris Moody this morning talked about two different types of APIs that are available from Twitter. Those are the public APIs and the Gnip enterprise-ready APIs. And you're probably wondering a little bit about the difference between those. Very simply, I know a lot of you all have probably played with the public APIs, and it's an amazing way for you to figure out what sort of data is available on the platform. You can dip your toe in the water a little bit and really get a feel for those types of business tools or solutions or applications that you might want to make. But as you work with it more, you're probably going to notice certain things. There aren't a ton of rule operators that you're able to use. You can't combine a bunch of rule operators into single queries. You're also probably going to hit rate limits. I'm sure that people have experienced this. Well, all those companies that I talked about at the beginning of the presentation that build their businesses on the lifeblood of what Gnip provides, they need something more. They need something that is enterprise grade. They need something that is absolutely guaranteed to be there through redundant connections, reliable connections. They need something that's augmented. I mentioned those enrichments that Gnip adds to things. We need to make it even better data. And also, we need to make sure we lift those rate limits. And so that's what the difference is as we look between the public and the enterprise APIs from Gnip. So how do we deliver these APIs? So this slide actually speaks in a very basic way to the 3 different types of APIs that we provide today. I'm going to go a tiny bit off track here for just a moment. Everyone knows why the date today is really important, right? Hopefully there's some Back to the Future fans here. Yes, hopefully. OK. So I actually bought this sweatshirt just thinking I was going to wear it on stage, but realizing quite how hot it was, don't think it's going to cut it. So brand new sweatshirt. I'm going to ask for the top 3, probably very tall people, because this is going to fit you better. But as I'm looking across these, I'm going to have a little pop quiz for you in just a moment here to think about these 3 different APIs. So the first one, real-time. Real-time is really important to us because that's where we find out exactly what's happening the moment it happens. And when you look at Gnip real-time APIs, those enterprise APIs, we've developed this incredible PowerTrack language that allows you to do very, very, very hyper-focused queries to make sure that you're getting exactly the tweets back that you need or that your customers need and nothing more. With 500 million tweets a day, you're running into a lot of problems in terms of like noise and things like this. If you're looking for that one specific tweet, PowerTrack pulls that tweet out for you. Second are the historical APIs. And these allow you access to any single tweet all the way back to Jack's first tweet 9 years ago. Setting up my Twitter is available through this tool. Any tweet that you need in this largest archive of human thought, searchable human thought to ever exist, is available to you. And we have several different applications there that are also available. And finally, our new Insights APIs. And Rob Johnson, who's going to be speaking after me this afternoon, is going to go really into depth into it. Here comes the happy dance again. I'm starting to get excited about this all over again. Rob's going to be up here in a little bit. He's going to talk through those, the engagement and the audience APIs. But nonetheless, 3 relatively tall people, just because we did a PowerTrack search last night for all the times the word hello has been mentioned ever explicitly, the word hello. 3 hands from people who might want a sweatshirt of how many times the word hello has been mentioned on the platform ever. Wild guess. Anyone?
35 million.
Second guess. Third guess. Was that 500 million? It was actually 555 million times. And so I'll meet with you afterwards to have a sweatshirt for you. That's a great Back to the Future sweatshirt. But these are the amazing things we're able to pull. And we pulled that in seconds. We were able to pull that out so quickly. We were able to search for these things. And so nonetheless, these are the 3 primary buckets of APIs that Gnip makes available. Now, this slide here, I talk a little bit about the making of enterprise data. So when we look at a traditional tweet as it comes through, there's all sorts of metadata that naturally comes with a tweet. Well, Gnip, prior to being acquired, we realized we wanted to build a business in providing extraordinary tweets. And so what we did was we actually created some enrichments that add additional value to every tweet that we deliver. We add things like a person's clout score. Think about how important that would be to know, like, let's say Jade, for example. How influential is she in music? Because that would be really, really key to know when we're trying to understand the impact of tweets like that. We do things like sharing profile geo. A very small subset of tweets are actually explicitly geolocated, turned on when somebody tweets. And what we do is we actually look into people's public profiles. Again, all very public information, but we're able to add that profile data, and it gives a really amazing glimpse into inferred geography. Where I say I'm from Boulder, Colorado, there's a very good chance that my tweets are coming from Boulder, Colorado. And some other things, language identification, URL expansion. TICOs are great. They don't tell you what the originating one was. We unwind that. We provide that as well. All the redundancy that I talked about that goes into enterprise data is also there. And the coolest thing about this entire spread of things behind me is it happens in seconds. This happens every time we deliver a tweet, and that number of tweets and activities that we deliver every single day, when you look across all of our customers, because some customers are interested in the same tweets, we deliver over 25 billion activities every day from Boulder, from the Gnip data platform. And we're able to add all of these enrichments, all this redundancy, everything in seconds. That's the power of this data. That's why it's so cool. So the last example that I'm going to share with everybody here is actually another really, really interesting one. This one's a little bit more marketing focused, but this one is really incredible because this is something that we did with Dove during the Oscars last year. And what we did here is we wanted to actually take a campaign where it looked at the negative tweets that people were sharing about themselves and do something about it. Because this is a public platform. If you or I tweet something negative about ourselves, and if our friends, let alone the public doesn't respond to that and it becomes this like ember and it just sits out there, it starts to take root and it burns and it catches fire and people start to believe those things. And so what we wanted to make sure we did was we said, you know what, let's look at every negative tweet that women are sharing about their body image. And the reason we did that was because unfortunately last year, there were a lot of negative body image tweets by women on the platform. In fact, there were over 5 million negative tweets saying, I'm not skinny enough, I don't have the hair to do that, I could never wear an outfit like that. And we wanted to make sure we did something to change that. And so what we did was we picked an event, the Oscars, where we knew there would be a lot of negative tweets because there's a lot of false comparisons where people are seeing someone coming down the red carpet and saying, I could never wear that outfit. Oh my gosh, negative things. We set up a war room and we worked with Dove and we worked with another ecosystem partner to actually set up a scenario where we said, you know what, we're going to respond to those negative tweets. We're going to make sure that they don't sit there and become an ember and that people actually believe them. We want them to know that that's absolutely false. We want to change that. And when we changed that with a single tweet, their friends, their followers followed suit. And it became this overwhelmingly positive thing. So let me share a commercial about that right now. Pretty cool, right? Every time I see that commercial, I honestly get some chills because it's, again, we talk about the power of data. Let's not just think about the impact on businesses. Let's also think about the impact that it has on people. Let's think about the power of that individual tweet that matters so much that if it, when answered, just a single stranger said, no, you're not ugly, you're not that person, it changes the entire way you think about yourselves. That's the power of a tweet, and that's the power of Twitter data. So one thing I'd like to leave everyone with as we're going into the afternoon session is that we've brought our entire product team here to talk with everybody. The coolest ideas actually come from developers like you. We like to think that we'd come up with some really cool ones, but you all just blow us away every time we talk. Come out to the product pod later this afternoon. You'll see the Gnip data pod out there. We'd love to talk with you. We'd love to hear about some of the unique ways that you'd like to apply this enterprise data. And let's figure out what we can do together. Because you know what? There's a lot of really amazing things yet to come. With that, thank you.